Vasile Dobrian, Lost in Bibliography, found in the museum. A retrospective overview, 1912 to 1999, Introduction and Changing Historical Paradigms. A broad temporal arc. The creative career of Vasile Dobrian spans a vast temporal arc, extending from his artistic and literary debut in 1934 to his passing in 1999. Throughout this timeframe, his art was repeatedly canonized and evaluated according to shifting historical and political frameworks. Dobrian's life represents a complex trajectory, a journey beginning as an underground, illegalist militant printmaker, transitioning into a post-war state-honored figure, and eventually re-emerging as a post-factum icon of the Romanian avant-garde. Shifting historical paradigms. Dobrian's artistic evolution serves as an interpretive lens through which 20th century Romanian cultural and political history can be viewed. Anti-fascism. Early critical interpretations focused heavily on his pre-war and wartime production, framing it around the communist-aligned underground struggle against fascist ideologies. Socialist realism. In the immediate post-war years, his militant graphic prints were actively utilized by state institutions to consolidate and legitimize the new political and social order. The avant-garde. During the cultural shifts of the 1960s, his work was re-evaluated and integrated into official histories as part of the regime's Romanization policies, which sought to reclaim and nationalist historical avant-garde movements. The bibliography, lost and censored narratives. The documentation of Vasile Dobrian's career was profoundly altered by the mechanisms of communist censorship and state-mandated historical revisionism. While 3 primary monographs were historically dedicated to analyzing his oeuvre, their availability fluctuated based on political events. The Purge of the 1968 monograph, an extensive monograph written by the prominent art historian Marina Vanci, was published in 1968. However, following Vanci's subsequent emigration to France, she was deemed a persona non grata by the totalitarian regime. Systemic deletion. As a consequence of her departure, her monograph was systematically removed from public catalogues, stripped from official bibliographies, and omitted from institutional research materials. Surviving accounts. For decades, only the alternative biographical and critical accounts authored by Nicolae Argentescu Amza and Ionel Mistachide were permitted to remain visible to researchers and the public. Formative years and typographic roots. 1929, arrival in Bucharest. In the summer of 1929, at the age of 17, Vasile Dobrian moved to Bucharest. He settled in the heavily industrial and working-class Grivița district. This immersive exposure to the environment of workshops, manufacturing plants, and proletarian labor became a foundational influence on his developing social consciousness and subsequent artistic themes. Breaking with institutional rigidities. Seeking formal instruction, Dobrian initially entered the National Academy of Fine Arts as an unenrolled auditor. He quickly grew dissatisfied with the institution, characterizing its instructional atmosphere as rigid, conservative, and creatively limiting. Seeking an alternative, he transitioned to the Academy of Free Painting, an independent studio directed by Constantin Vladescu. This provided a flexible, experimental training environment free from classical academic constraints. The typographic world and social identity. Driven by financial necessity, Dobrian took a position within the printing and typographic facilities of Cultura Popularului, the people's culture, on Calea Grivița. Here, he worked across multiple technical roles: bookbinder, typographic compositor, press machinist. During the 1930s, printing houses functioned as significant underground social and intellectual hubs for radical left-wing and anti-fascist discourse. Working directly on the factory floor within this charged atmosphere heavily reinforced Dobrian's identity as a militant artist-worker. Radical influences and early masterpieces. The influence of Franz Marsrael. While browsing the collection at the Hassifer Art bookstore, Dobrian encountered the wordless woodcut novels of the Flemish master printmaker Franz Marsrael. The discovery transformed his aesthetic direction. He recognized printmaking and wood engraving not merely as technical disciplines, but as powerful poetic and ideological instruments uniquely suited for political dissemination. Vasile Dobrian stated, engraving was a pretext for poetry or ideas, a wonderful opportunity for spreading them among the masses. Early graphic and literary debuts. Literary work, 1935. Before gaining widespread recognition for his visual art, Dobrian debuted as a socially conscious poet, publishing verses in the militant cultural magazine Chantier, the construction site. Political illustrations. He quickly began contributing aggressive, politically charged graphic illustrations to the anti-fascist review Cuvântul Liber, the free word. Explicitly ideological compositions like Proletarian Democracy sought to visually project what he termed the unconquerable power of the working class. The Domino album, 1936, Dobrian published his first portfolio, Domino, a collection of 15 original graphic prints. This release established his critical reputation as a poet of engraving and advanced the concept that art should be easily reproducible and widely distributed rather than confined to private aristocratic collections. Collectivism and Wartime Art, 1940 to 1947, alongside artists Alexandru Basarab, D. Dimitriu Nicolaide, Aurel Marculescu, Marcel Olinescu, Tanya Belair, and Gorghe Seglokov, Dobrian Company founded Grupul Graphic, the Graphic Group, an association that remained active between 1940 and 1947. This collective sought to emancipate graphic arts and printmaking, elevating them into autonomous, standalone artistic disciplines equal to traditional painting and sculpture. Technical innovations in color engraving. In later exhibitions organized by Grupul Graphic, Dobrian introduced a breakthrough approach to color printmaking. Rather than using color as a passive decorative tint, he applied polychrome inks to achieve what critics described as the brilliance of stained glass. His technical innovation was lauded by the eminent art historian George Oprescu, who identified Dobrian as one of the first printmakers in Romania to fully harmonize the mechanical precision of graphic matrices with the rich, expressive depth of oil painting. The Cycle of Death, 1942, conceived, carved, and printed during the height of the Eastern Front campaign, Dobrian released The Cycle of Death, a portfolio of 10 stark engravings. Defined by intense, violent contrasts between pure black ink and raw paper, the album stood as a powerful, devastating anti-war testament, capturing the existential dread, urban ruin, and human slaughter of World War II. Post-war power transitions and the avant-garde. Institutional reorganization, 1944-1945, the geopolitical pivot of August 23, 1944, positioned Dobrian prominently within the newly emerging cultural infrastructure. Because of his verified history as a pre-war underground left-wing militant, he was appointed to the executive leadership of the Fine Arts Syndicate, SAF, in 1945. Working in close alliance with figures such as M. H. Maxi, Camille Resu, and Ligia Macovei, Dobrian was instrumental in dismantling the traditional, bourgeois, institutional structures of the art world, reorganizing the syndicate into a centralized, state-aligned apparatus. He was subsequently integrated into the state censorship, acquisition, and selection commissions of the Union of Artists and Journalists. The UNU connection. Simultaneously, Dobrian maintained a parallel, highly experimental presence within the radical literary avant-garde. Under the direct influence of the avant-garde theorist Sacha Panna, he published 2 highly iconoclastic collections of surrealist poetry through the historic editor of UNU Press, Alphabet of Blood, 1946, The Shadow of a Melancholy, 1947. In 1946, Dobrian personally met the Dada pioneer Tristan Tzara during Tzara's celebrated, high-profile lecture tour on surrealism in Bucharest. This phase of Dobrian's career exposed an underlying artistic tension between the rigid external demands of state building and an internal fascination with the uninhibited poetry of the subconscious mind. As Stalinist socialist realism outlawed abstract and avant-garde expression during the intense cultural tightening of the early 1950s, Dobrian channeled his mastery of the graphic arts into producing state propaganda. International exhibition at the Venice Biennale. As the Romanian state sought to project an image of cultural modernization and industrial success abroad, Dobrian was selected to represent the country on the international stage. The 1960 and 1962 Biennales, selected and curated under the direct supervision of Jules Perihim, Dobrian exhibited high-visibility graphic works including Our Factories and People and Cranes. Aesthetic trajectory. These compositions utilized a highly structured, clean graphic style designed to explicitly communicate the themes of heavy industrialization, labor triumph, and state-mandated, socialist humanism. Entanglement in Securitate archives. Archival research within the files of the Securitate, the communist secret police, reveals that despite his high institutional status, Dobrian was simultaneously a subject of interest for the state security apparatus. Surveillance by agent, Anton. The prominent art critic Petra Cămanescu, operating as secret informant agent, Anton, filed multiple intelligence reports on Dobrian. Cămanescu described him as a powerful figure within the Union of Fine Artists, UAP, who possessed a word full of authority, and who maintained an unyielding, influential commitment to revolutionary and working-class iconography. Targeted as agent, Doru. Conversely, counterintelligence records indicate that the Securitate actively tracked and targeted Dobrian for recruitment under the operational code name, Doru. The secret police specifically intended to utilize Dobrian's long-standing professional networks to monitor the activities of his former artistic colleague, the nonconformist and eventual political dissident George Tămaziu. National honors and private disorientation. The 1960s brought supreme official validation for Dobrian from the highest levels of the state apparatus. 1964, awarded the title of Artist Emeritus of the Romanian People's Republic, RPR. 1968, awarded the Order of Cultural Merit, Class 1. Despite this public adulation and financial stability, Dobrian's private diaries and personal notes from this exact period reveal a state of profound intellectual and creative disorientation. He expressed deep anxiety regarding the regime's volatile, unpredictable cultural shifts, which fluctuated erratically between brief periods of Western-facing liberalization and abrupt returns to dogmatic, anti-experimental control. Present and Future, 1969, Vasile Dobrian wrote in Scantea, 1969, the artist is not above, but in the middle of life. His activity has a vivid, increasingly intense echo in the life of society. In 1972, the preeminent Romanian art critic Ion Frunzeti formulated a critical definition that would permanently shape Dobrian's late career evaluation. Frunzeti famously designated him as a painter in polychrome engraving unique. This specific framing recognized Dobrian's unique technical ability to completely transcend the reproducible nature of printmaking, converting individual graphic pull sheets into singular, unrepeatable visual masterpieces characterized by deep, painterly textures and complex color layering. Late career timeline and creative legacy. 1974 Retrospective, a massive career retrospective exhibition was organized in Sibiu. Following its critical success, Dobrian made a permanent institutional donation of his principal prints, matrices, and paintings to regional public museums. 1982 Canonization, Dobrian was officially integrated into the historical canon of national modernism via his inclusion in Constantin Prout's definitive dictionary of modern art. 1998 Final Memoirs. Nearing the end of his life, he published his deeply introspective autobiographical memoirs, The Gesture of the Hand and Memory, providing an invaluable, first-hand perspective on the turbulent artistic and political centuries he had actively witnessed. The centenary and ongoing critical recovery. In 2012, a major national centenary exhibition was mounted in Iași, successfully reuniting 33 of his most significant, historically dispersed graphic masterpieces. In 2022, a comprehensive volume dedicated to the artist Vasile Dobrian, serving as a catalogue raisonné of the Iași Museum of Art collection, was published by the Palace of Culture Publishing House, Editura Palatul Culturii Iași, featuring critical studies by Mihail Voicu and Cosmin Nasui. These preservation efforts, Dobrian's posthumous legacy remains subject to historical instability. He was completely omitted from the updated 2016 edition of the Dictionary of Modern and Contemporary Art. Today, stripped of both its original communist propaganda framing and subsequent post-communist neglect, the vast, multifaceted archive of Vasile Dobrian stands as an open field of study, awaiting a comprehensive, modern monograph to fully uncover the real artist who spent decades hidden within the margins of censored history.